On today's show, a new year means new hope and new expectations. We'll discuss some New Year's resolutions for the Ottawa Senators.
And we have a SensCentral Citizen. It's one of the Sens fans that bumped into Ross live on the Winnipeg Postcast.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Wednesday, January 1st. Want to wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. Pilsy, I just want the Sens to keep it rolling into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, we could have stretched 2024 a couple more weeks, Ross, and kept that momentum going, but it's a new year, so the Ottawa Senators have new goals, new ambitions. We're going to get to a lot of those and when we talk about our expectations and resolutions for this year, but overall, like when we recapped 2024 in yesterday's episode, Ross, for the Ottawa Senators, it was actually a pretty good year.
Yeah, way better than 2022 and even 2023. You look at the upward tick, it's been a lot slower than fans would have liked, but it seems like they have caught on to something, as this team since November 25th is the second best team in the Eastern Conference behind only the Washington Capitals. If you sort it by points percentage, still only Washington in the East, LA, Edmonton, and Vegas in the West, the only teams with a better points percentage in the last more than a month right now. Also, the Senators have more wins since then on the Canadian Tire Center ice than Team Canada. At the end of the show, we'll discuss what's wrong, Carter Yakimchuk being snubbed from Team Canada as they fell 4-1 to the United States in World Junior action last night. But with the Ottawa Senators, they'll be back on the practice ice later today. They had New Year's Eve off. I'm sure the boys had fun out in Dallas, and you got to think the large contingency of Americans were even more thrilled with how that game unfolded. But we are expecting an update on Artem Zub either today or tomorrow. We get into that with our citizen, Pilsy, with a year ahead look at the Ottawa Senators. Look, the Canadian Tire Center official Twitter account posted, hey, what events are you looking forward to in 2025 with all the posters of different concerts that have happened in the past? I said, how about a playoff game at the CTC? That has to be first and foremost the number one goal for 2025.
Ross, I need it so bad. Like we always mention, I haven't been to an Ottawa Senators playoff game ever. I've never even been to an NHL playoff game. So I want to be at the CTC. I've heard all the stories from you. I've heard all the stories from our citizens coming on that have had boots on the ground at the CTC during the playoffs, and I got to be there. So I'm with you. That is what we have our sights set on as a whole team, as a fan base, at the city. Yeah, Ottawa Gatineau. Everybody wants to be there when the regular season is over, and I'm feeling good. I'll say that.
I'm feeling really good, but cautiously optimistic. There's a host of teams. Even Montreal's winning a ton of games now. They've got themselves into the conversation, at least, as being a team that could be in the mix at the trade deadline. Right now, we look at the standings at New Year. Ottawa sitting in that second wildcard spot. The team right behind them, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're 1 point behind Ottawa, but the Sens have 3 games in hand over the Penguins. Frankly, games in hand, as we like to call them on this show, wins in hand, are really in the Senators' favor for every single team except for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Senators have played the second fewest games in the Eastern Conference, tied with the New York Rangers, who are sitting 1 point out of dead last. Real shame how that happened after the garbage rumors at the start of December. They have fallen down. They honestly are reminding me of the 2017-18 Ottawa Senators. They're just taking the President's Trophy curse to a whole other level. Yeah. But for the Ottawa Senators, I'm even looking up at the Boston Bruins, only 4 points up on Ottawa, and they've played 3 more games. So you win 2 out of 3, you're ahead, because Boston only has 1 extra win than Ottawa. They've got 2 more regular or overtime losses. That's where the other 2 points come in the separation. So Ottawa's in a pretty good spot, and you got to give them a lot of credit for how they've managed road games, which in the past has been their biggest Achilles heel.
And Ross, where I get a lot of hope for the Sens position is, I know it's not, it's kind of like plus minus. You got to take it with a grain of salt, but when you're looking at the goal differential, like all the teams that are chasing the Ottawa Senators in the wild card are in the negatives in goal differential, and like heavily. Pittsburgh is a minus 25, where the Sens sit at a plus 7. Then you got the Blue Jackets at minus 9, Philly at minus 17, Montreal at minus 14, New York Islanders at minus 20. And then you look up, Ross. I know you're looking up more than down these days. The Boston Bruins, only 4 points ahead. They're at a minus 16 goal differential. So there is certainly opportunities if the Sens can stay on this consistent path and not, have really unbalanced games, especially losses. We want to have unbalanced games and wins, maybe a repeat of the St. Louis Blues matchup when they play them again this year. But that is something that gives me hope that at least it's not like the Ottawa Senators are kind of lucking their way into this spot. And just quickly on the Rangers too, Ross, Igor Shesterkin was just put on IR as well. So like they're falling. And I don't think things are going to get better there. It's almost, Ross, they're falling too bad, because I'm nervous that team's going to win the lottery, and you throw in one of the top players from this draft. Like there's a top 4 in this draft that could be huge talents, and you throw one of those guys into that lineup, and that could be scary, but it is nice to see them decline here.
Any other whether it's resolutions or do you want to call them expectations at this point for the Ottawa Senators that you're hoping to see in this calendar year?
Well, Ross, I've more had individual ones in mind. I don't know if you want to get to that, or if you had a couple more team ones you wanted to list off first.
I mean, if I'm going to nitpick, it's obviously on the right track now, but that 0 for 16 power play slump, a lot of it was on the road. Their road power play before the Winnipeg game was dead last in the National Hockey League. Now they're 3 for their last 6. So now that to me is going to be a huge part of it, because special teams on the road is how you can really take control of games and win. And I love how we're talking about how great they've been on the road. They're 9-9-1. They're exactly 500 on the road. But still, compared to years past, my other resolution for the team is to not have to play November next year. Let's just make that not a thing.
Yeah, let's just skip November, or somehow, and the schedule makers hate the Ottawa Senators, so this would never happen, but just have them like give the Ottawa Senators a bye week in November and really spread those games out. Let's go with that. But as a team, they're in a good spot. Individually, Ross, I had a couple goals here. Tim Stützle, let's see him hit 100 points. It's been too long since an Ottawa Senators player has hit 100 points. Right now, he's sitting at 40 points in 36 games. I'm going to quickly check on Elite Prospects what his projection is. We're not math guys on this show, so I'll leave the math to other people. And he's projected right now to get 91. So it's close enough. And we know he's been flirting with that area for a while. So if this team can remain hot, you got to think it's going to be with Tim Stützle helping lead the charge as he is now. And another one I had, Ross, I want Josh Norris to lead this team in power play goals. Right now, he's at 5. Drake Batherson has 7. Brady Tkachuk has 8. But we talked about it. Norris needs to earn that contract, and the best way for him to do that is to score goals on the power play. He's given the opportunity. He's been on the top unit the entire time. There's no reason why he can't be blasting them home like he did in that last game. So that's another goal I'm looking at, Ross.
My other goal individually is good health for Linus Ullmark. I think he down the stretch is going to have to be a 1 period starter, not 1A, 1B. I think down the stretch in March.
Okay. I thought you were talking about we're going to start him for the first period and rest him for the rest.
No, come on.
Period starter.
From basically after the 4 Nations, he's going to have to play 80% of the games, I think, for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, man. See, this is where, again, my caution for Linus Ullmark is because I love Linus Ullmark. I want to preface that because, Ross, I was cautious about Linus Ullmark and everybody wanted to ride him and everybody got to laugh in my face when riding him was the right answer. But now he's out with a bad back.
Right. So no, but he's going to have good health. That's the resolution.
Yes, of course, but you need to properly play. You need to set him up for success to allow that good health to remain, in my opinion. And I want Linus Ullmark to start all the games, Ross. But if we're not living in fantasy land, unfortunately, he's I don't want to say older goalie. He's like our age, and we're not old at all. But when you start having back problems like that as a goalie, and you start putting too much pressure and too much work on it, that's when those tweaks, they happen more frequently, and that really scares me. So I love your mindset, Ross, but I'm starting to think that maybe it's better if you have Linus Ullmark spread out more, and the Ottawa Senators need to find a better option as their number 2 goalie.
My final resolution, and this is on steady Stevie Staios pulling the strings. I would like to see him, if Ottawa can continue riding up the standings, to show confidence in this team, not with the Gucci purchase, not with the Prada bag, not getting the Chikrins into the Brinkets, but bringing in another solid veteran contributor to this team. And look, David Perron obviously could be that, but you got to get a little more certainty with it. So I think that a nice purchase in the trade market could be something that, not now, but into February, around the Four Nations, we've got until early March, until the trade deadline. I think that would be a good signal to his team that he not only believes in the core, but believes in what they can do this season.
Yeah, so you're talking about getting like a good work lunchbox from Mark's Work Warehouse or something like that. No free ads. Maybe they'll sponsor the show now. That, like, something, a durable, reliable addition that's going to help this team get to where they need to go. I like that.
Like a gritty, a hard-nosed player that's got a bit of offensive upside. Now, I don't want to throw names out here because we'll do that, I'm sure, going into the deadline and when it really separates who the buyers and sellers are. But I think that doing that would just send a message through the room that this could be our year.
Big time. And I'll do one more, Ross. I had it in my bag. We need to see Jake Sanderson be an even plus-minus player. Again, plus-minus, not everything, but when he is the worst player statistically in plus-minus at a -12 on the team, that can't happen. This team will not be successful if he continues to be at that pace. We need him to get more positive and be a better player, point producer, 5-on-5 and even strength. So that's another big one I'm looking at here.
Let us know in the comments your resolutions for the Ottawa Senators going forward. In the days ahead, we'll take an updated look, probably around the Four Nations, actually, of our hot takes going into the season. But we got a couple that are right on track, and I already lost my first one when I said that the Sens would be 500 in the month of November. They didn't get there, but they've more than made up for it on the run they're on right now in the second half. And just to make note on, you mentioned Tim Stützle, 90 or 100 plus points this year. Only 4 points in his last 8 games. He had a stretch where he had 3 straight games with 2 assists in each game. No multi-point games since then, but to me, that's even a better sign for the long-term success because we know that he's going to produce offensive numbers. So for other guys to be carrying the load a little more right now could be beneficial down the stretch run. Okay, let's get to our SensCentral Citizen, where we had a great talk after the show where he mentioned seeing me in the Winnipeg game. You tell the story because I just got such a kick out of it.
Yeah, so him and his buddies were looking for a bite to eat after the game, and they saw a random Sens fan just wandering around yelling at his phone. And
on ice, dude. I was on the little rink. I was like on, if people know, the Rink of Dreams outside City Hall in Ottawa. It was basically a Walmart version of that.
Yeah, nice. Love that. Yeah, so Ross is just skating around yelling at his phone, and Matt says to his buddy, I think that might be Ross, and he just yells out, yo, Ross, and Ross immediately turns around. And if you guys watch that postcast, that's where Ross brings in just a crew of Sens fans onto the postcast, and so we had to get our guy Matt onto the show, and he did not disappoint.
And he tells us how he recruited so many of those Sens fans in Saskatchewan. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here. Just 1 week left in the regular season. But it's not too late to get in on regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Bengals are dead, eh?
No. If they beat the Steelers, Ross, which is kind of tough for them, and then I think they need the Chargers and the Broncos to both lose, they have a chance here. Joe Burrow's keeping that team alive, Ross, and I'm going to be going to FanDuel, and I'm going to be putting my money where my mouth is because they've been winning games left, right, and center recently.
Minus 126 on FanDuel right now.
Yeah, and I think the spread's -1.5, so it's going to be a good one, and we'll see. Maybe Steelers are resting some of their players because they're already in the playoffs, so that might help out a bit. But if you're a new customer, you can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel's got so many great ways for you to pick up the W. I love betting on the over-under, same game parlays, and finding some fun futures. Make sure to get some futures in your portfolio. You can also bet which players are going to score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com today. That's FanDuel.com today for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, we now start the new year with a SensCentral Citizen. We're going up to Nipawin, Saskatchewan, where we find our good buddy Matt. What's going on, fella? Love the setup. How are you doing today?
Good, boys. How's it going? Happy New Year.
We cannot believe that we get to chat with you just 4 days after you're on the postcast. If people were watching after the Winnipeg game, Matt and all of his coworkers came up to Winnipeg for that matchup. Now, tell me the story behind getting, because that was your crew at work, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
So are these diehard Sens fans, or do you just have enough jerseys to supply everybody?
It's a 50-50 handbag there. I did lend out some jerseys, but there's a couple of my staff that are diehard Sens fans, especially Donnie. When he hears this podcast a little later today, he'll be very excited. I threw his name out there.
Let's go. What up, Donnie?
We normally have a staff party every year, but I asked the crew if they wanted to go catch a hockey game, and everyone was pretty excited for that. So they knew I was a Sens fan, so they obviously knew what jersey they had to wear there. So that was great.
So, Matt, we got to ask, how does a guy in Nipawin, Saskatchewan become an Ottawa Senators fan?
Well, I'm originally from Ottawa. I own a store in Nipawin. It's a grocery store, Matt's No Frills. So if anyone wants to come buy stuff for me, I'd love that. Huge hockey household I grew up in. And my dad was right into the Sens right at its inception. So I've been through all the highs and lows with the team.
Now, what part of Ottawa did you grow up in?
In Orleans, right by Place d'Orléans.
I thought you were going to say right by Pierre.
No.
So growing up then, like when the Ottawa Senators became a franchise, what are your earliest memories? You said your dad was all in right away. What years did you first remember either going to games or starting to watch them on TV?
You know what? I knew you guys were going to ask this because I hear but I tried to rack my brain, and I just remember as early as like 6 or 7 years old going to go see the Sens against the Leafs, us dominating them.
Yes.
My very clear first memory was when I was in high school, and it was in 2016. And I remember they were playing it on the big Jumbotron right on the side of Place d'Orleans, and huge crowd there to cheer them on. And that's awesome. That is my earliest memory. Yeah.
And who were the first favorite players when you started following the team? You're like, yeah, I'm on this guy's bandwagon.
For sure, Daniel Alfredson.
Ever heard of him?
Yeah, he was, first love for sure. And, the pizza line, getting a chance to see those boys get back together not too long ago there, that was awesome because that was my childhood, and watching those guys dominate on the ice every night. So I'd probably say Daniel Alfredson was my first favorite.
Okay, now we're not going to ease into this. We're just going to make you power rank the pizza line.
Ooh.
Wow. All
right. It's going to be unpopular. Number one's obviously going to be Alfredson. No one's taking that.
Yeah.
Number two, I'm going to have to give it to the heater.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, I like Jason Spezza, but he'd go at 3. Talk about the giggles. I know you guys always talk about Pinner whenever he does an interview. You guys should go back and listen to Spezza when he starts chuckling away at his interviews. That's a classic one that always gets me going.
Oh yeah, the classic one was actually after Heatley demanded a trade, right? Where he's just like, I don't know, it was almost like a nervous laugh, but that was all time. Now, with Danny Heatley, you're happy. Were you one of those guys like us who was saying this was long overdue, or do you think it happened at the right time?
I think it was long overdue. And, a lot of people are upset with the way he left and how he didn't want to go to Edmonton and all this other stuff. But he was unhappy with management. And the more that kind of gets peeled back, the more you could see why he was unhappy with management. And thank God for Hanlauer and Steos coming in, because we need that proper management, and it's reflecting nicely on the team. The on-ice product is beautiful.
Yeah, it's been a refreshing change of pace having new ownership and new management. Something that we've really liked asking our SensCentral citizens, and we're going to keep this theme going, is name your favorite playoff series. I always am interested in what direction people go here.
So, trying to recall what year this was, but
Ross will know it.
He's the all-time stat king.
LOSP stats department checking in. What was the team?
We were playing the New York Rangers, and it was more specifically, I like the series, but more specifically, it was the game where Pajot scored 4 goals.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely sick.
Yeah, I remember I was working on a job, and we were all at a bar watching the game, and a bunch of people were Rangers fans by me.
Okay.
And the chirps were coming in fast and furious at the beginning of that game, and then Pajot just put the game on his shoulders, and boy, that was sweet. Right after.
Yeah, round 2 in 2017, one series after Pilsey's favorite one, where they beat Boston, they beat the Rangers. And for me, what was great about that series too, obviously the Pajot game was unbelievable, and the fact they were down late, he scores again, and then he gets he had 1 goal with 5 minutes left in the game. And then he finishes with 4 goals. That's unbelievable there. But they went in after that game to New York and laid 2 eggs in game 3 and 4. And you're like, okay, you're never in trouble till you lose at home. It was 2-2 coming back to the Canadian Tire Center. And for them to take over the series from there, I think it was Kyle Turris with the overtime winner in game 5, if I'm not mistaken. And then they go back, and that was an iconic game 6 too. I know the Pajot game you're talking about, but if you remember the little give and go that Carlson and Bobby Ryan had, and then Carl just skating around MSG with his arms up, and you just knew that they were going to close that series out, was unreal. So that's not one that we get often, Pilsy, but that was an unreal series, top to bottom.
Yeah, it really was. And hey, talk about a rivalry between the Ottawa Senators and New York Rangers. That's kind of sparked off the ice this year in a little different way. But that was an intense series, especially that was Henrik Lundqvist was still at his peak. That was no small feat to be able to put them away with King Hank in net.
Yeah, and they owed them that one because the 2012 series slipped away from Ottawa against the Rangers in round 1, where they went up 3-2 in the series. They had game 6 at home, and I think Nick Foligno took 2 goalie interference penalties in that game, and the Rangers capitalized and won the series in 7. So that's a little payback for the New York Rangers. So consider it a 1-1 tie in playoffs between those two teams. But let's talk about the team right now, because they're absolutely rolling. They're in a playoff spot for the 9th, 10th day in a row. We're getting lucky a little bit with the out-of-town scoreboard. Feels like whenever Pittsburgh has a chance to jump them, they either lose or they win on the same day that Ottawa plays, and then the Sens end up winning right back. Were you as down and out as we were after the Vancouver game at home, where they lost their 5th straight game, and it felt like the panic button was turned on, not pressed on this show, but it was turned on? Were you confident that the underlying numbers would bring eventual points and get them into the situation they are? Or are you as impressed as we are, where they've just gone on this hot streak since?
I will say, Pilsy, you're a stronger man than me, because I would have pushed that thing through the table.
I had a lot of pressure to do it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit more like I sounded like Martian after that game. Because I was like, man, are we ever going to get through this? But I'm shocked. The team's coming together nicely. Everyone's clicking nice. I was very worried about Linus, but I will be the first one happily to say I was wrong. It's a beautiful jersey, by the way. Pointed on the first time. Did you see that, Ross?
Oh, look at you!
If I use my right hand, I get it every time. When I switch to the left, I start. I did it accidentally right there, but yeah, I got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was nervous, but everything is coming together nicely. Now with players coming in off injury, I am a little bit nervous because typically that kind of throws a wrench in the works. I like the chemistry right now, but if Artem Zub and Jake Sanderson can get back to form, that's only going to skyrocket this team.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Matt. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from our friends at Gametime.
Yes, I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. I went to the Blink 182 concert in Toronto at the Rogers Center there, and it was awesome. Now Gametime has made it even easier for you to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you're not wasting your time searching through thousands of tickets that you don't even want. You can find amazing deals with the Super Deal. It's very impressive. It offers great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, turn on the all-in pricing feature so you can see your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's Gametime.
So with that, Artem Zub was flown into Dallas. So you got to think if he's getting flown in like that and a full participant in practice, it's either going to be Thursday or Friday that he plays, whether it's in Dallas or in St. Louis. What's the move for you to get him back into the fold?
I say we wait till St. Louis. I'm not a massive fan. I know we beat him up a little bit on the show here, but he's been playing good. He's been playing very well his last few games. It's, he's holding his own. I think Dallas is a tougher team. So the smart move would be to kind of keep everyone where they're comfortable right now. It's the same thing you were saying yesterday about Levy starting up. I think that's also the right move. And then when we go to St. Louis, I know they just came off a big win against Chicago, but I'd make that transition there.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be interesting because it feels like it's just a coincidence, but the fact that the last game Zub played was the loss against Vancouver when we were down and out, and then he's been out of the lineup for this entire streak. So I'm a little nervous about getting him back in the lineup, but he's obviously one of the 6 best defensemen for this team, so you have to. But it's just like throwing off the juju around the team right now. I'm a little nervous about that. Like, Pilsy, are you at all?
I mean, a little bit, but like you can't tuck guys away just because you're nervous of them throwing things off, unless it's like a fringe guy, right? Like if we're talking about like, do we get Zach McEwen in here or not? Like, then it's like, obviously, let's keep with the lineup. Things are going good. But a guy like Artem Zub should make this team better. And that's why it's been difficult with Zub, because in years past, he's been a fan favorite. And this year, him and Sanderson just haven't been able to figure out. Matt, I'll pose the question to you this way. So let's say he does come back to St. Louis. Are you of the mind, easy, no-brainer decision, just put him with Jake Sanderson? Or do you try to put him somewhere else to, I don't want to say shelter him, but maybe give him a little more time to get acclimated so he's not kind of playing up against teams' top lines right away? Or do you just put him where you hope that he has worked in the past?
I would put him right away back with Sanderson, but I would be moving Shabbat and Jensen to the top line.
Yeah.
and it's just like, no disrespect to Sanderson and Zub, but Jensen's been fantastic. Shabbat is probably looking the best he ever has looked on this team. Those two boys are playing phenomenal, and all the stats and the eye test all matches that. And the other defensive pairings are clicking. So just to break those up for no reason, I don't really see the point in that. But yeah, I would put him back with Sanderson.
But just to stay on the D pairs here quickly, Nicholas Matimpalo and Tyler Clevin had a great game statistically. Do you keep them together now after one hot game, or do you say, look, JBD and Clevin were pretty consistent? Like, sure, they hadn't been great lately, but they were consistent. Let's get JBD back in there, or do you plug and play? How do you tackle that third pair?
I do like JBD. I think limit their ice time a little bit more, but I would probably put Clevin back with JBD.
Yeah, a good problem to have. Good teams have depth on the back end. I would almost leave Matimpalo in for another game just to kind of get him another 15 minutes of experience, and you're gonna need, I think, 7 or 8, 9 even defensemen if you are planning to make a push and make the playoffs this year. So eventually you're going to have to rotate some guys in, but hey, it's a good problem to have with Artem Zub looking like he's ready to come back from injury. Who has impressed you the most this year, Matt? Maybe a guy who you didn't have the highest expectations for. We know the top guys, like they can't come to play every night, the Timmies and the Brady Kachucks of the world, but is there a guy who you maybe are exceedingly excited about how they're playing this year?
Well, as of late, I mean, you have to look at Nick Cousins. I think out of everyone on that team, he's gotten those couple goals, but even in the game that we lost to Winnipeg, he had that puck that was kind of lingering a little bit out of the net. He tried to poke it in and just missed. I mean, he's all over the ice now. You could see he's taking the game very seriously. And I didn't get those vibes from him at the beginning, but I do like the way Nick Cousins is coming ready to play for sure. And of course, Gaudette's been a little quiet lately, but man, what a firing. Like, he's just been crazy out of the gate with all those goals.
Yeah, he has. And with Nick Cousins, I think that's a great guy to highlight here because he really, like, I don't think that he would even argue he was bad at the start of the year. Like that Vegas game, the bad penalty there. And in our breakdown, when he made that signing, we're like, as long as he doesn't hurt the team, he'll be an asset. But it wasn't quite the case at the start of the year. But 7 points in his last 13 games in December and a +5 rating. I mean, I feel like ever since he got in that fight, was it in Anaheim where he got in a scrap? I feel like ever since that game where he came back from missing a couple, he's been just exactly what you want from a guy who we were like, all right, fourth line, but like, he looks good on the third line. Like him and Pinto have had some chemistry there, and we'll see how that continues as well. What are you hoping for the rest of this road trip, Matt? Like, you've already gotten a number of wins. Is it kind of not free money at this point for the rest of it, but with some tough opponents coming up here? You got Dallas, then St. Louis and Detroit to end things off. Like, is there something in particular you want to see beyond just the wins and losses that would give you even more confidence heading into the second half of the season?
I want Boston. That's who I'm looking up at, and I genuinely feel the next 3 games we can do, because didn't Dallas play Buffalo last night?
Yep.
Dallas played Buffalo last night. Yep. And they beat them
4-2, I believe.
4-2. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're like, I feel bad for Sabres fans because we're not terribly far away from them, but I mean, Jesus, that's a long time to be out of the playoffs. So I don't want to kick anyone when they're down, but if the Sabres can bring it close to a 4-2 game, I have confidence in the Sens. And Detroit is maybe my biggest nemesis out there. Okay. So I hope we just absolutely stomp Detroit. So ideally, 4 out of the next 6 points I'd like to have. And obviously playoffs is something I'm eyeballing down.
Are you already looking at flights to Ottawa for that first playoff game?
I do have some plans in place, but the I made was if we make it to the conference final, that's I'm gonna fly down to Ottawa and I'm staying until Brady lifts a cup above his head.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. That's a good deal because you're like round 1 and 2, like whatever. If they make it through that, then I'm putting all my chips in on the championship run there. So
Yeah.
I like that move, man.
That's not bad.
Absolutely.
But hey, you got to fly in for at least one game a series, though. You got to get in there and mix it up. Hey, forget paternity leave. How about Sens-ternity leave? Hey, I'm sorry. I got to take either the next 2 weeks or 2 months off. Just depends on how the boys play.
Yeah, we're having a baby that weighs 35 pounds and his name's Stanley. We're going.
It's made of all silver.
That's awesome. I love that.
Oh man, that's a great line right there. So, hey, speaking of babies, you got a Sens household there, don't you?
I do. I have 2 kids. My daughter's name is Ellie, and she's 1, and my
Nice.
son is 3, and his name is Alfie.
No way.
Yeah,
Nice.
so
That's awesome.
yeah, and he's great. He's I mean, the only senator he knows is Brady Tkachuk, and
Okay.
he says it like an announcer because every time Brady scores, I put my announcer voice on, and
Yeah.
he mocks it now. So Ross, you get to look forward to that too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Ellie and Alfie. Those got a good ring to them. I like that
Yeah,
combo.
I like it too.
My wife said that after Alfie was born, she's like, we need an IE. So it was Murphy or Ellie or there was one more, but I can't remember. We landed on Ellie.
Those are good ones.
Heater got lost in the shuffle. Heater couldn't get some consideration there as a name.
No, it was, but he demanded a trade. So
Yeah, last minute demanded a trade. So yeah.
Love it. Well, for people listening, there's a couple jerseys hanging behind you. You got the white Josh Norris. You got the black Tim Stutzla. You're wearing the Brady Tkachuk. Hey, see, it's
not easy. It's not easy. All right, point to the Norris.
Hey,
okay, there you go. Okay,
he's already better than you, Matt. Or,
He is.
Kelsey.
Yeah, he is.
What other? Yeah, any more in the closet, or is that it?
I got a nasty habit of when the player leaves the team, I give him away. So I probably owned about 30 Sens jerseys in my life.
What were the ones you gave away?
Oh, I've given away a ton. I got a Stone one somewhere kicking around here, but I've had Carlson, I had a Hoffman, I've had Alfredson, I've had a Spezza, I've had a Heatley, I've had just a ton of jerseys.
And you gave the Alfie one away and you named your kid after him?
Well, I gave it away like a very long time ago.
Okay, gotcha. And he's back now, though. He's back. You got to get another Alfie jersey.
Or you got to show up. Or you got to show up at whoever's house you gave it to and say, knock, knock, need that one back.
I'm going to need that back. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, we appreciate you jumping on with us today. Final question from me, Matt, and it's more of a look at the forwards because we already talked about the decor quite a bit. Is there a part of you that likes seeing Tim Stutzla and Brady Tkachuk on separate lines, or do you prefer when those two are together?
I think the best time to put them together is on the power play, but I think depth is important. So I prefer when it's 5-on-5 to break the boys up a little bit. And if Norris could kind of get going a little bit more again, I think it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, well, we saw in the last game there, having him in Minnesota, he ends up getting a big power play goal, but at 5-on-5, like he was on the quote unquote third line. So you're a fan of spreading out the wealth through all lines, eh?
I am, yes. Except for on the power play. We need all the big guns. We need everyone up front. All the best of the best are up front.
Totally. So then follow-up question to that, because it's a conversation I think we'll be having towards the trade deadline if the wins keep piling up, is let's say for argument's sake that you've got Brady with Norris and Batherson. Let's just say that that's the top line for this exercise. Who are your wingers for Tim Stutzla?
I still really like Claude Giroux.
Yeah, and he wins all his face-offs for him.
Yes, sir.
When Timmy kind of struggles as hard as he does on face-offs, you know, that's his one flaw in his game, and that's okay to have one flaw in your game. So I definitely partner him up with G, and was really liking audio actually
Okay.
up on that line until he got injured. So we'll kind of have to see what happens when he gets back. But yeah, those would probably be the two I'd partner with him.
Love that.
All right. Final question for me is, as a hashtag goalie friendly show, these have been unfortunately some unstable times in the crease for the Sens. We thought we had the stability, but now Linus Ullmark out. We're not sure when he's going to come back. Anton Forsberg has been practicing, but we don't have a definite time on him coming back. How do you feel about the crease, Matt? Do you feel like this is a kind of situation where injuries happen and you just got to ride through, get the young guys playing a couple games? Or are you more on the side, hey, we got to find a stable backup or someone more stable than Anton Forsberg that can really shoulder the weight if Linus is out for a while?
It is nice to have that extra goalie at your disposal. The thing is it's a love-hate relationship I have with the lack of information coming out. So it's hard as a fan to kind of formulate an opinion about that, because you're, on the one hand, you go and spend the money and you bring someone in and they're not really needed, where you could acquire some more depth, like maybe a Kane that's trying to get back into the league here.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like if Linus is good and Linus says he's good to go, I would like to trust that. But I don't know to what extent his back is wearing him down, because this is the second injury and the first one was for the back as well, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
So-
but
no, groin. I think
it was just a strain. I don't think they ever really specified what it was. But let's say Linus is healthy and that's not the issue. How do you feel about whoever is going to be the number two? Are you confident enough in Forsberg? Are you thinking, hey, Levy's been hot recently, let's keep him up? Or do you think they got to find outside help? I'll put it that way.
Well, Forsey's getting paid, so the right answer should be Forsey, but
Okay.
I am more confident with Levy and Ned right now than I am with Anton, for sure.
That's fair, man. It's fair. We'll see how this all shakes out, but hopefully they got their beast Yeti back in goal with Linus Ullmark sooner rather than later. Matthew, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate you jumping on today and representing Senators fans out there in Nipawin, Saskatchewan. Thanks for doing this, man. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you guys so much. And again, thank you from all the fans for the Sens. You guys help me every single day when I get in there and I'm grinding away at the store. I always got you guys in my ear. Great way to start the day, and we appreciate everything you guys do for the Sens community.
All right, Pilsy. First, thanks to Matt for that fun conversation. Naming his kid Alfie, gotta love that. And the 35-pound baby comment was all time, eh, Pils?
Yeah, well, Ross, you got a Alfie in your household as well. Your dog Alfie, so it's a popular name, that's for sure. But yeah, Matt, all-time citizen. We're happy to have him on the show and sharing his stories.
Well, I always laugh too, because obviously I'm living in Winnipeg right now. But in Ottawa, if you go to a dog park and yell Alfie, all the dogs come, man.
Yeah, or I bet there's a lot of Brady's around the dog park these days too. So
yeah,
great
so
name.
good. Great name. I don't know if we're going to be getting any Eastons or any Olivers as names right now. Team Canada struggling at the World Juniors. They've lost more times at the CTC than Ottawa since November 24th. The Sens are 5-1 in their last 6 home games, whereas Team Canada has fallen to 2-2. Right, they barely squeaked by Germany and then lost to Latvia. And last night, the United States.
I can't believe that's even real, Ross, that you just said that.
Do we need a summit for Hockey Canada or what?
Look, here's the thing, Ross. The executives and the management group for Team Canada, they had a disappointing year last year, obviously. So I think they were trying to go galaxy brain on this one. And, I've said in the past, when you're making teams for countries, you can't just make an all-star team. You can't have 12 first line guys, because that's not how you make a good team. That's just how you make a good skills competition. You need to find ways to balance teams out. So sometimes some of these top guys are going to be left out because you're like, well, we already got 3 guys that have the same skill you have. And that's the way it goes. And I understand that. But the decisions that they made, and Ross, you tweeted it out from your personal account on Twitter, and that got a lot of action, leaving so many top picks out of this. If this team doesn't find a way to turn it around, I think you got to completely clean house and you got to start fresh when it comes to the decision makers of Team Canada, because losing to Latvia and then losing to USA the way they did, it can't happen like that, especially when you're the host country and it's in your nation's capital. Like, it's just a tough look.
And your goalie has the best save percentage in the group. Like,
yeah, this is not on Carter George.
No, he's been great. And they keep getting a ton of shots. They get no high danger chances. They are merchants at getting pucks in from bad angles. It's tough to watch, honestly. And when you make a team, Pillsy, and you leave those top skilled guys at home and you build a team on character and toughness and whatever else the adjectives the coaching staff wants to use, you can't take 11 penalties. Like,
no,
that you're shooting yourself in the foot. And if I have to hear Gord Miller say one more time that Canada has not allowed a goal at 5-on-5 in this tournament, I'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Why are you giving up so many power plays, fellas?
And that's the thing, Ross. Like, I when I was watching that game, I wanted to be like, ref, you suck chant, and just be like, the refs are brutal here. But all of those penalties, especially when you consider it's the IIHF, like you players going into this, coaching staff going into this, you have to know and understand the IIHF really calls it by the rule book. Like, they're not going to be lenient at all. So you got to play a clean game. And when you look back at all those penalties, and Mike Johnson even said it on the broadcast, like, look, these are clear penalties. And it's not like they were penalties, Ross, where, you know, a guy's about to get on a breakaway, so you're like, well,
the one was
1 out of 11. Yeah. But they're not penalties where it's smart to take the penalty. They were undisciplined, and penalties where they got their emotions get the best of them.
Yep.
And you're allowing a powerhouse team like the US to go on the power play yet again. So they've got a lot of work to do. I'm not putting all this on the kids, Ross, because it's important to remember. I know you get wrapped up in the patriotism, US, Canada, and you're upset that when you're hosting, US gets to bark in your face and have their cocky celebrations. But these are kids, so we're not going to get too upset at the kids. But the decision-making of how this team was put together certainly deserves to be in question.
Tons of questions, and we'll see if Canada can answer. They will play Czechia in the quarterfinals. Oh, they lost to Czechia in the quarterfinals last year.
Yikes.
On their way to a 5th place finish. Final thoughts from me on today's show. I just want to say thank you so much to all the citizens who ride and die with LOSP. We could not do this without you guys. The numbers are in, and we are up about overall 15% year over year. The year before, we're up like 40%. So to me, this is even more impressive that you guys stick with us through 332 episodes, including postcasts, in a 365-day stretch. It really means the world to us. Pillsy and I started this show with a couple other buddies at a college basement, and for it to become what it has, it is truly remarkable, and it would not even be close to possible without your continued support and the support, of course, of the GLEBE Central Pub and Mary J's Dispensary. And we do have a couple local sponsorship opportunities, and honestly, the passion of the fan base is unmatched, unparalleled success. Maybe this was what Old Huge was talking about when he meant unparalleled success. This fan base is starved for a product on the ice we're talking about, we're listening to, and it seems like they have turned a corner, and we appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. So I just want to say thanks.
Yeah, well said, Ross. I can't say it much better myself. I'll just add in, we also appreciate everyone that kind of works with us on the show. Shout out Jack Richardson, the Leames Martian. Shout out Doodling Daryl that helps us out with our merch. Shout out Gator. Like, there's so many pieces that make this show and that allow us to continue to build and grow. So we couldn't do it with everyone that's involved. It's one of those, it's like, it takes a village, Ross. I know it's you and I mostly every day, but there's so much more. Shout out the Locked On Podcast Network. They gave us a chance in 2019 and they've done a great job supporting us. So we couldn't do it without everyone that's involved in this. And this is a show for fans by fans. So that's, we take that seriously.
Yeah, unapologetically fans. We obviously can put our analyst hats on every once in a while, but this is for fans by fans. No producer and no Kenzie, no social media manager either. We do that all on our own accord. Pillsy, any final thoughts beyond that, or should we punt it over to a game day preview tomorrow where the Senators will finally be back in action again? Thank goodness for that win against the Wild on Sunday, because it's made this 3-day break a lot more bearable.
Yep. Nope. No final thoughts for me. Let's get to Sens hockey. Woo!
All right. Pre-game podcast coming tomorrow morning. It's an 8 o'clock Eastern puck drop. The Senators taking on the Stars in Dallas. For today, we say goodbye. Happy New Year again to everybody. From Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.